Hey, what's up, fellow degenerates? Welcome back to Gamado Gaming. We're doing another iceberg video today. Today's the topic of Banjo-Kazooie, and this time we're not doing just one game. We're gonna do the topic of this bear, this voluptuous, big, chunky bear, and we're gonna go down the official iceberg for Banjo-Kazooie, made by none other than user Tevelev14 on Reddit. So without further ado, let's go and hop into Layer 1. Before we get started, just a quick summarization of icebergs. Again, if you do not know, if you're a huge Banjo fan, but you're not a huge fan of icebergs and you clicked on this video, then let me explain. So the top of an iceberg is the more well-known stuff, the safer areas, stuff you've probably heard of before in that certain subject. And the further along down you go, you get more and more unknown, because you don't want to know. More disturbing stuff, usually. Today's near the bottom does get a little grim, a little grisly, but this one's more filled with conspiracy theories. Without further ado, let's go ahead and hop into Layer 1, the Banjo-Kazooie Iceberg. Project Dream. So Banjo-Kazooie originally started as a SNES RPG, which went by the name of Project Dream. This game didn't get very far in development before it was just moved over to N64 and subsequently made into Banjo-Kazooie. How they went from a little white boy to a big bear is up to Rare developers to explain. But there's even a pirate in the second game, and a bunch of screenshots from the early development that can be seen in Banjo-Tooie. It's always cool. I like when devs reference stuff that never came to be, but it's still out there. Grunty deletes data. So in the original Banjo-Kazooie, there are cheats you can put in for the game. Your typical old school cheats, big head mode, infinite ammo, infinite life, stuff like that. But originally, Grunty only grants you 2 of these cheats per visit to the cheat area, and if you do more than 2, it becomes illegal. And she swats Banjo's house, and a lot of people end up getting hurt that shouldn't be, and it's wrong. No, what actually happens is your file gets actually just deleted, so you don't want to cheat too much. You can cheat a little bit. I don't know what kind of message that is for the youth of tomorrow, which is now today, because this game came out about 20 years ago. So I think we all have Banjo-Kazooie to blame for our world's problems. Banjo was first appeared in Diddy Kart Racing, the famous kart racing game that rivaled that of Mario Kart 64. You know, Nintendo was already doing so well, they had to just be like, can we even beat our own racing game? And they threw it up there, and honestly, I really like Donkey Diddy Racing. It's a great game. This had quite an array of characters, just random animal characters that would later see fame and fortune in rare games, and one of these people was Banjo. And because of this appearance from Banjo, a lot of people think that the universes of all these rare IPs, i.e. Banjo, Donkey Kong Country, Diddy Kong Racing, Conquer, all of these have a shared universe, and with all these characters sharing karting and all of that, you would argue that everybody in the Mario Kart universe shares the same universe, so this honestly makes a little bit of sense for me. TOOTY is missing. I don't really know what this is referencing. I think it just means the objective of the game is to go after TOOTY because Grunty stole her. That's Banjo's motive, and trust me, it gets a little bit weirder later, guys, with that. Stop and swap. So this was a mechanic that Rare tried to do. You could argue it's ahead of its time, but I would argue it's just was badly programmed and rushed out the door. But Stop and Swap was a way for the first Banjo game to communicate with the second Banjo game, Banjo-Tooie, in a way of players collecting things in one game, and they show up in the second game. But due to time constraints, nothing came of it. But there's still a lot of remnants of the Stop and Swap stuff in both games, and it's just kind of a little bit eerie that it's just something you can collect, and it's so thought out, and there's just nothing to do with it. So early on in the game, there's a door that can be seen in a cutscene, and later when you're actually there in the game in person, the door's shut, and you can't get through it, you can't see what's through it. But players have found a way to clip through a wall, and there's actually a large area behind the door So a lot of players have just speculated what's beyond the door and what's at the end of the hallway that you can kind of see behind the door. Me personally, I think it's Banjo 3 coming out in 2023 for Xbox One S and Nintendo Switch. Alright, and that's really it for the top layer. We're going to take a little bit of a dive into the water to layer 2 and start off with Black Eye's chest. This is a chest that can be found in the first game, Banjo-Kazooie, in the Mad Monster Mansion stage, in which players believe they can open this chest, and honestly, you can't blame them there. There's been a lot of visuals of keys in the games, and even earlier in the game, the second level, you jump into a treasure chest to get to, so by running across the chest, everybody thought it was openable, but nothing in the game you ever found would unlock the chest, and actually by breaking the game and going outside of the fourth wall, players have been able to find that there's actually just nothing in the chest. It's not even actually a separate entity of a chest. It's just a texture part that shares the same object as the floor. Therefore, nothing's inside of it. Bottle's Revenge. So Bottle's Revenge was originally planned as a little bit of a multiplayer mode in Banjo-Tooie, but it didn't actually make it to the final cut because it was not completely debugged in time. But the mode showed that Devil Bottles would show up, because Bottles does unfortunately pass away in the second game. Rest in peace, my boy. Still haven't gotten over that. 20 years later. I had to get out to his grave soon. It's been a while. But yeah, Devil Bottles, one player takes over Banjo and one player takes over Devil Bottles. The Devil Bottles can possess nearby enemies and take control of them to attack Banjo with, and if Devil Bottles successfully won, they would switch places, and that would be a little multiplayer mode. But unfortunately, the game was a little rushed, and we did not get that mode in the final version. Mumbo's Head. I assume this will tie into something a little bit later as well, in terms of Mumbo's background, but I think this is a little bit too far up the list to jump into that right now. I do want to save whatever spicy stuff we can for last, so I'm not going to jump into that too much, but I do want to talk about the conspiracy that Mumbo is speculated to be a pink Jinjo. Designer Ed Bryan has said that Mumbo's design originated from the Jinjo body with a skull and feathers stuck onto it. Despite this, Bryan still holds that Mumbo is not actually a Jinjo. So they kind of designed Mumbo around the idea of a Jinjo with a skull and feathers, i.e. Mumbo, but the dude says it's not Mumbo. So I think it's a situation of the GIF and the guy who made it is just retarded and says it's GIF. I think it's a situation like that. Exit to layer. This was an option that was seen in some beta images in the early days of Banjo-Kazooie, which gave the option on the pause menu to exit to Gruntilda's lair, but this was removed in the final version of the game. I don't think it's ever actually been spoken on why it was actually removed, but unfortunately it was removed because, hey, an exit course button always helped me out in Mario 64, would have helped out there too. Character name contest. So for Banjo-Tooie, there is a contest in a magazine that allowed players to send in names for these 3 characters that they said name them, and whoever we get will credit and you'll win a little prize. Chris P. Bacon, the photographing pig, was named by Simon Turk from Wales. Bullion Bill, the prospector fox, was named by Kyle Hudspeth from Rotherham. And Old King Cole, which I did not know somebody made that, and I gotta say, man, Jeremy CRAGGS, bruh, from Milton Keynes. Listen, man, I gotta meet you one day, dude. Old King Cole is probably the most badass character name in any video game ever, bar none. So shout out to Jeremy CRAGGS out there, dude. Old King Cole, dude. You were really using 100% of your brain that day. Banjo-Kazooie. So this was an early project that after the Xbox acquisition of Rare, they started working on a kart racer type game that featured Banjo, but then this kind of just turned into Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts from speculation because of the prominent vehicles in Nuts and Bolts. Grunty's Revenge continuity. So Grunty's Revenge is the Game Boy Advance adventure game for Banjo-Kazooie. I played it when I was a child. I liked it. It was very hard though, and I did not know where to go. So originally it wasn't supposed to take place in the Banjo-Kazooie continuity, but rather in a alternate universe to that of Banjo-Tooie. But this was abandoned, and it decidedly took place between the two entries. 2 months after Banjo-Kazooie and 22 months before Banjo-Tooie. So it's kind of an interquel. And God, you gotta love the very precise timing and months there. Only 2 after, but 22 before Banjo-Tooie. You know, you gotta let the skin sloth off of Grunty in her fucking grave, dude, before you know you gotta get Banjo-Tooie going. Fungi Forest painting. So in Banjo's living room, there's a weird painting of him just standing outside. I don't know about you guys, but I don't have pictures of me standing outside in my house. But you know, Banjo's a bear, so people seem to think this is when Banjo visited Donkey Kong 64's Fungi Forest. But to me, it just looks like he was standing in Bubble Gloop Swamp from the first game.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's me, post-editing, post-recording. Currently editing. I got it wrong. This was just referencing a scrap level called Fungus Forest. The person who made the iceberg spelled it wrong, or just put the wrong name. They put Fungi Forest, I'm pretty sure. I ended up on the thought that people were thinking about Fungi Forest from Donkey Kong 64, but in reality, this is just referencing Fungus Forest, the scrapped Banjo level, which this painting is referencing.
Gobi went to Fire Eyes Mountain. Mount Fire Eyes was a lava-themed world that was planned to be included in the original Banjo-Kazooie, but was cut during development due to time constraint. This concept was eventually used in Banjo-Tooie in the level Hellfire Peaks. But this world is actually mentioned in the original Banjo-Kazooie. After stealing Gobi's water for a second time in Click Clock Wood, he will state that he's going to leave for Lava World. This was later revealed that he was actually just going to Hellfire Peaks, which technically wasn't a lie because it is a lava world, and he can be seen there. Ice Key True Function. In Banjo-Kazooie, the Ice Key appears in a large alcove in Waza's cave, although it is blocked off by an indestructible wall of ice. You can actually dissolve this wall. You have to go enter a cheat that says, "Cheat now, you can see a nice ice key which you can have for free," without spaces in the little sandcastle. And when you do that, you can go and get it. But when you collect it, nothing happens because it doesn't have a use, because it was probably part of the stop and swap, but nobody's ever really explained that further. So this ice key actually appears in Banjo-Tooie as well. So the key in the second game is a huge fetch quest that eventually ends with you getting a Mega Globo, which you can go and eventually turn into Wumpa, who will turn Kazooie into the infamous Dragon Kazooie, which is always dope because that bitch can breathe fire. Log 720 Frantic Factory. Logbox 720 is a level from Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts. It is based on the inside of an Xbox 360 and includes different circuitry and electronic stuff like that. For some reason, people think this is the same level as Frantic Factory from DK64, but I really don't believe that's true. Space World demo equals 3E temple test levels giants lair. This was kind of a mouthful and I didn't really understand it, but I have some pertinent information in this. The temple test level is a test area during the development of Banjo-Kazooie. It was just used to basically test out their models and their movements and stuff. This level is sometimes mistaken for the Giant's Lair, hence the title, an early concept of Gruntilda's Lair, and Mount Fire Eyes, a cut world that was eventually developed in the Hellfire Peaks, which we talked about a little bit ago. Now that connects to a Space World demo somehow. I wasn't able to find anything on it, but let me know if you guys know anything about that. Oh, me knackers. So this is something that some people think Mumbo is saying in the game, and it actually turned out to be true. He says it in a more processed way, and it's like, oh, Minaka, or something like that. But Grant Kirkhope, the voice of said Mumbo, said in an interview with esteemed journalists Aaron Hansen and Jonathan Tron, said knackers in the UK is slang for balls at the time unless testicles swollen up. So he had to go to the doctor. It's a long story, but in short, he he came up with the term ominaka, as in, oh, me knockers or my balls. Like, ouch, my nuts hurt. Every time Mumbo's just waltzing around, you know, just left testicles swollen. Just know that. That's canon. Nuts and bolts equals 3E. This is just pretty much an admitted defeat, I think. I don't even think this is just... I think this is just the author being like, damn it, man. That was really it, huh? I didn't like to accept it either, but I remember the day I did. It was November 17th, 2012, when I accepted that we would not get an official third Banjo-Kazooie game. But it's all good, because Nuts and Bolt isn't that bad a game, as some people say. I actually kind of hate it, but that's just because I don't like the type of game it is. I think you should try the game before you hate it. I'll say that. I tried it. I don't like it.
Banjo-X.
Banjo-X was a remake of Banjo-Kazooie that Rare was originally going to develop in 2005, right around the acquisition of the Xbox taking over Rare. But this was, of course, redeveloped into Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts. Banjo had a lot of morphing in the early stages of Xbox. He was about to be a racing game, and then he turned into maybe a remake of the first game, and then we ended up with Nuts and Bolts, so... Banjo clothing damage. I really couldn't find anything on this, and I really did look. This might be referencing how Banjo's shorts are a little bit torn. I don't think it has progressing damage like an Arkham Asylum or something, where throughout the game Batman's cape gets more torn. I don't think any of the games have that fact where Banjo's shorts get more torn. If I'm wrong about that, then hey, I'll happily be wrong, but I'd have to see it to believe it. Other than that, I don't know what this is talking about. There's only one bed. So, I didn't really have to look this one up. There is only one, unfortunately, there is only one bed in Banjo's house. And when you think about it, you know, you got the residence of Banjo-Kazooie. Kazooie sleeps in her knapsack. However, we forget the whole reason Banjo is going on his adventures to save his what? His what? Did I hear it in the back? Sister. Yes, sister. He is saving his sister. So they share a bed. Listen, man, I'm not going to make any jokes or even go there because they're bears.
SABREWULF hint.
So one of Rare's old IPs known as Ultimate Play the Game, i.e. Saberman, appeared in Banjo-Tooie, and you can find his frozen body in Hellfire Peaks. He was also in a game called SABREWULF for the Game Boy Advance, and there's references to that in the game as well. Kazooie can be heard in Diddy Kong Racing. So, as we mentioned before, Banjo is in Diddy Kong Racing, but there is no model or mention of Kazooie other than in the game's manual. In the description of Banjo, it does mention Kazooie, but nothing of Kazooie is in Diddy Kong Racing. For some reason, some people believe that they can hear Kazooie in Diddy Kong Racing, and possibly there is a few sound bites of Kazooie, but there never been anything singled out through the game file, audio logs, or anything like that. So I'm going to take this one with a grain of salt, especially since I couldn't find anything damning on the internet. Diddy Kong Pilot. Banjo Pilot was a 2005 racing game developed by Rare and published for the Game Boy Advance. This game was gonna be called Diddy Kong Racing, actually, but after the Microsoft acquisition, Rare no longer had rights to the Diddy Kong, i.e. Donkey Kong, characters, and they had to quickly and promptly change it to Banjo Pilot. So Banjo is always just the next runner-up, the guy they call when the other guy calls off. So, incorrect N64 logo. So this is pretty interesting. The opening to Banjo-Kazooie has the N64 logo walking in, and basically they had to 3D model this because N64 titles that were under Nintendo themselves a lot of them got their N64 logo design wrong. Basically, developers had to design their own model for the logo by scratch and just referring to the picture of the N64 logo. And in this particular case, it was a wrongdoing of coloring. In the way the N64 logo moves, there's no reference for the color of the back leg, because the N64 logo that they have to reference is a 2D image. So Rare just really had to go out on a limb, and people noticed it. I wouldn't have noticed it, and even if I did, I would have shut my mouth about it. I'm not like that, Rare. Y'all did your best. Banjo is in more driving games than platforming games. I actually had to look this up because I was like, I don't know if that's true. And then I realized, okay, they're counting Diddy Kong Racing. They must be counting Nuts and Bolts. Who wouldn't, really? Banjo Pilot. And I was like, okay. But then you have Grunty's Revenge on DS, the 2 and 64 games. So I'm saying they're equal. I'm not going to say there's, unless I'm missing a karting game, I'm going to say there's equal number Banjo racing games and equal number Banjo platforming games. So I don't think that's completely true. Unless I'm missing a game, I could be. Kazooie is always pregnant. This was a tweet from Platonic about the character Kazooie from Banjo-Kazooie. I don't know the reference or the inside joke to this, and I couldn't really find an explanation for it. It was back last year in 2020. Of course, Platonic are the developers from old Rare, who originally made the Banjo-Kazooie games and the Donkey Kong Country games. I can't find any reference to this besides the old tweet or any explanation of it at all. Banjo and Smash equals new game. So this is the hopeful optimist coming out in the next layer of this author. A lot of people, I think I even like to fall into this sometimes, that since Banjo is back in the news, he's hot shit since he's in Smash again, that they're obviously making a Banjo 3. I am not hopeful whatsoever, and even if we do, we saw what happens when you try to make a 3D collectathon in 2020 with Yooka-Laylee. There's much better ones out there, independent ones, and I feel like Microsoft would fuck it up. Mystical powers of the Jiggies/Jinjos. Throughout the series, you run into different Jinjos and you collect Jiggies, and actually the Jiggy, the origin of the Jiggy is shown further in the second game, but it's no surprise that these things have mystical powers. I mean, even being able to unlock full worlds, full portals to worlds using just placing Jiggies into a puzzle and completing it. There's no surprise that they have mystical powers. And then look at Jinjos. I mean, you touch them and then they fly into themselves and disappear. I don't think anybody was attesting or arguing to the fact that Jiggies and Jinjos have mystical powers. Banjo Land, BOGGY'S Kids. Alright, so this is pretty crazy. There was a mission or statement in Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts that mentioned BOGGY'S Kids, and for 11 years there was they were hidden like the Chilean miners, dude. They were just stuck for 11 years, and then one day a guy finds them in Banjo Land, a quest hidden in Banjo Land. That's pretty cool. They were found. They're all okay. Boggy is still an awful father, and shoutouts to him, dude. Banjo Frog ending. There was an extended ending to Banjo-Kazooie in which Grunty turns Banjo into a frog, but then Tooty would come and save the day, and players would guide Tooty through all of the levels again to collect items to reverse Gruntilla's frog spell. But alas, the extended ending never came to be, which is unfortunate. That would be a cool New Game Plus where you get to play as Tooty and you gotta collect frog repellent. Clanker fucking died, dude. So this is a little fucked up, and I feel bad for Clanker in this. Before Nuts and Bolts, there was a game called Fast and the Furriest, which was a crossover game featuring like a bunch of Rare's big titles. And man, this was a concept for one of those levels, and you can see my boy's beached and has been for a while, and he's down bad. Let's be honest, guys. They did him real dirty. He's out of the water. He's a shell of what he used to be, let's be honest. I mean, he was going to be used as a cool thing to drive through in a racing game. And honestly, you know, people like to say Banjo's dead, Conker's dead. Fucking Clanker actually died, dude. Crystal Cave's Ice Key. So this shit is very interesting, and it ties into the DK House Fridge. So along with Banjo-Kazooie and Banjo-Tooie, the other game that Rare developed for an N64 was Donkey Kong 64. So a lot of these have ties with each other since they were made by the same company on the same console, and they weren't scared to include stuff from each other's games. So in this very strange set of circumstances, if you trigger this thing, this glitch in the early stages of Donkey Kong 64, you can knock yourself into a loading zone that triggers this cutscene, this unused cutscene, and the camera moves to a corner that used to show a fridge slash like locker, maybe even a shower that had Banjo and Kazooie's face on it. And there's a small picture that I'll include on the screen here that you can see that this was actually the case. And this was supposed to be triggered in Donkey Kong's house. Or sorry, this was supposed to be triggered when you enter Crystal Caves. And when you trigger this zone, it'll warp you to Crystal Caves, meaning these two things were tied together, which leads people to believe and speculate that the ice key might have been an item that tied Banjo-Tooie and Donkey Kong 64 together by the fact that there was a Banjo-Kazooie locker. So people think, you know, you grab the ice key in Banjo-Tooie and then boom, Donkey Kong has it through the powers of the ether, and he can unlock whatever's in his fridge, you know, his next meal. Barrel Boy. If you view the picture before going to Treasure Trove Cove, Kazooie will call Bottles Barrel Boy, a line meant for Donkey Kong, making it possible that Donkey Kong could have replaced Bottles in early versions of Banjo-Kazooie. People speculate that Donkey Kong might have taken place in teaching Banjo moves, perhaps, you know, passing the torch on to Banjo, which I could definitely see, and maybe a reference to that was left in the final game when Kazooie calls the mole Barrel Boy, but this could just be a coincidence. Moving on to the decrepit Layer 4. Banjo adopted by Kazooie. This is a theory that Banjo was abandoned by his parents because they're bears, and they do that. And a flock of birds came by and found a little baby bear, and they were like, hey, we have appendages, let's pick this bear up and raise him. King Jingaling owns Spiral Mountain. This is pretty interesting. He doesn't actually appear in the Game Boy Advance version, King Jingaling, that is. There's a large broken stone structure resembling his likeness near Gruntilda's lair in the Spiral Mountain of the past in that game. So that leads some people to speculate that maybe he owns Spiral Mountain because he is this rich king sort of person, and we could definitely see him owning most of the lands, especially Spiral Mountain. But Banjo is a guy in a suit. So some people believe that Banjo is actually a guy in a suit because of just his height, his appendages, and the fact that I have this weird Mandela effect where I remember, I don't know if it was Banjo, but it was definitely a character that had a 3D trophy, maybe it was in Smash Brothers or something, that if you scroll to the back and like clip to the back of their neck, there's a zipper. Or for some reason, Banjo and Zipper is in my mind. So this one kind of makes sense to me, and I feel like I remember thinking this at one point as a child playing these games. I don't know if there's any credibility to that. I couldn't find anything that suggests Banjo or Zipper exist in the same sentence besides what I'm saying right now. Seeing this on this iceberg and seeing that somebody else may think that it could just be a placebo, or I might even be thinking of just a different case entirely. I know about the Daisy third eye thing, so I don't think I'm thinking about that. I know that was a Melee glitch. Kazooie's family. So I couldn't find anything on any references to Kazooie's actual family or where she comes from or her origin story at all. But I did find an interesting little tidbit that the actual names for Banjo-Kazooie came from the former Nintendo president, Hiroshi Yamauchi. Rusty Bucket is connected to Grunty Inc. So the level Rusty Bucket in Banjo-Kazooie 1, people have speculated to be connected to Grunty Incorporated or Grunty Industries in the second game. There's this weird sewer system in Grunty's Industries in Banjo-Tooie that looks like it might be straight out of Rusty Bucket Bay, and it could even connect to it because it looks like, you know, players could get into the sewer, but of course it's locked off and there's nothing behind it. There's always the curiosity, and people love to speculate that, hey, this thing's connected to the first game. Mumbo taught Grunty to use magic, then she stole his face. So Mumbo's past is kind of mostly unknown. He does reveal a little bit through the games. He states that he was the best student at Handsome Shaman Institute, and he is known to have been a magical instructor of Gruntilda's at some point in time. However, despite his teachings, Grunty turned the dark magic on him and subsequently stole his face, because Mumbo is known to used to have a face, and now he only has a skull. So essentially, she took the dude's face. The origin story to any good villain, let's be honest. But yeah, that one kind of does it for today. We had a couple fucked up theories here and there, but nothing got super dark or super creepy on this one. I do love me some Banjo-Kazooie, and I do know there's much more to this world, so maybe I'll take a look at another iceberg of Banjo-Kazooie in the future. If you guys did enjoy this one, make sure to leave a like. I do appreciate the views and the support on the last episode. If you didn't see, I did a Luigi's Mansion iceberg similar to this one. I will put it at the end of this video if I remember to. And make sure you guys subscribe and just keep on watching. I appreciate it.